everybody, thanks for watching. For my Never Pay Again members, make sure you guys are going to Conscious courses on Merkaba Academy and going down to Never Pay Again membership. That's where the videos are. The latest video will always be at the top of the page. It'll be right there where it says featured video. You should have access to Podia to download any videos that you need. Send an email if you do not have access to Podia and all the videos. A lot of people who are new should have access. A lot of the older accounts, probably not, but you should have by now downloaded all the videos or have access to all of them. But send an email if you do not. So get that out the way. If you guys missed the sale, I know a lot of people did, it was only up for the weekend, but make sure you guys take advantage of this. This sale was up for just the weekend. It's going to be taking down pretty soon. So it's Never Pay Again membership, meaning you will get access to Podia and all the original videos, all the downloads, all upcoming videos, which new videos are coming this week. So take advantage of this sale that will be gone probably before you finish watching this video. Also finish up the lecture on the gospel of hip hop at UNLV. This video, once it's edited and everything, will be on Merkaba Academy for my Never Pay Again members. So yeah, get into this video because a lot of questions. A lot of people have seen the video that Kyrie Irving posted for the Hebrew Israelites. And a lot of people got questions. Of course, it's always have a lot of videos on the Hebrews. It's so much to get into, which I already got into a lot of this, but there's this confusion that I want to correct in this video. A lot of people, of course, hear the Hebrew Israelite teachings and sounds all well and good until you actually go and study what they're talking about. A lot of people are just, turned off by the hate and, just the rhetoric and what's surrounding what they're saying. So most people, when they really dive into it, they stop. But you got a lot of people who is full of anger and hate. And it's the point of this, what they're trying to play off of to get people engaged in this. And it's something that has been building up for a long time. And there's a lot to that. So one of the things you got to understand, like I said this before, this is not a coincidence. They don't let information get out for no reason. So to make it so mainstream about Kyrie Irving in this specific video tells you they wanted you to see this video. They wanted you to watch it for a reason. Black people especially. They wanted to build up this understanding and attention for what's in that video, something they've been trying to do for a long time. It's one of the reasons why, this has been going on. But as I said, anybody who digs into the research, it's easy to debunk the whole teachings of the Hebrews, just the same as the Christians, because it relies on faith. So when somebody's speaking negatively about a Black person, we say racism. Same thing with the Asian, we say racism, Mexican, Puerto Rican, racism. But you speak negatively about Jewish people, you're anti-Semitic. And it's like, okay, what is this whole, we know what racism is, but it should be racism as well, right? But no, it's anti-Semitic. And it's like, they want you to look that word up because they want you to understand how much they are against it and what that means and what you're really speaking against when you're being anti-Semitic. So it's like, we're going to warn you about this. And if you still accept that, then we understand who you are. But the argument against him posting what he posted was so huge and, drug out. They had people come to the game and heckle him and, the guy was suspended. This is all national news. Everybody know about it. So people, of course, ran to Amazon, which again, Amazon has a lot of the same sponsors as the NFL, the NBA, NHL, all sports. Same sponsors, same people. They sponsor a lot of these people. And I have a lot of companies, of course, that sell. I mean, everybody sells on Amazon. So no one was outraged that Amazon chose to sell this movie. Nobody's outraged that, people can just go and buy it. The backlash went on Kyrie, and then the movie was still there and made a lot of money because of the situation. So a lot of people went and supported these guys and because they were supporting Kyrie, and a lot of people was interested in the video, the movie, and a lot of people had a lot of questions. So, more than ever. A lot of my family members and friends watched it. A lot of people, bought into it. And you have people who were, just beginner, conscious, just knowing about Dr. Ben and knowing about John Henry Clark and a couple books. And it's one of the things yeah, a lot of, Hebrews brought to my attention about Dr. Ben, being Jewish. A lot of people don't know that. Dr. Ben, they'll tell you straight out, oh, well, rest in peace. Yeah, he's Jewish, born of Jewish parents and had a bar mitzvah, the whole nine. And he understands Judaism. But if you watch the debate that he had with Rabbi Arthur Seltzer, yeah, he talked about all this and he basically broke down his thoughts on all of it and said just because he's, you know, Jewish doesn't mean he believes in the Jewish mythology, which he called it mythology. He also said, Jews is not a race. It's not a race of Jews. It's not such thing. That was one of the points of the argument about there is no Jewish race because you have black and white, and it's one of the things where they want to separate that. And of course, even the Hebrews understand this. The black Hebrews understand it's different races of Jews, but it's no one, race of Jews. So, but he says clear as day for the Hebrews who think that, oh, it's a big deal that Dr. Ben talked about Judaism. If you paid attention to what he actually said, he basically told you it was allegory, it was mythology, and he doesn't believe in it. He broke down how, of course, if Moses was actually in Egypt, then he got the Ten Commandments idea from the negative confessions that's in every school in Egypt. So it's no way God just so happened to give him these commandments that's the same as what's written in the Egyptian schools all throughout Egypt. So he made that point and he doesn't believe in any of that stuff. So let's get that out the way. But one of the things you got to understand is the confusion comes into this point where we have the fall of Egypt and the rise of Judaism. If you are a historian, if you look through history at this period of time, it's conquest. And it's what people always forget. Conquest was going on. A lot of things happen throughout conquest. And when a ruling class comes in and takes over, things change. So, just think about it. Why would you conquer a people if their civilization and system is cohesive with yours? If they're doing the same as you and what you want them to do, there's no point in conquering. It's no point in taking over. And, there's no need to. But when the Persians conquered the Egyptians, we get into all this, and the Greeks conquered the Persians in Egypt, then everything shifted. We have, as I showed you here, I took this picture myself in the Cairo Museum in Egypt. And this is Serapis Christos. And this is hundreds of years before Jesus Christ is supposed to have been born and died. So you have here, first look, when you see this, you think Jesus, clear as day. So we have this, we have Zeus Ammon, Jupiter Ammon as well from the Romans. And it's clear as day showing you that before we get Christianity, we have this ruling, these conquerors trying to instill the worship of gods in their image. So we had the Egyptians have their own understanding of what we call religion or what they believed in, and it doesn't coincide with the Greeks. The Greeks had their mythology. They had their own understanding based off Egyptian mythology. So we get, after conquest, we see Ptolemy dressed as Egyptian. Showed you guys in the Greco-Roman section in the Cairo Museum, the whole, Greeks trying to be exactly like the Egyptians to where they dressed like the Egyptians. They made stelas. They basically tried to change their ways into the Egyptian ways. And we understand when you go to Egypt, there are hieroglyphs of the Greeks. Once they took over, we have Alexander and hieroglyphic, as well as the Ptolemies. So we understand we have this conquering by the Greeks and them try to assimilate the Egyptian culture into their culture and take over. And obviously that didn't work. They made these gods up and tried to get the people to worship them for reasons that I got into in previous videos. And there is clear as day showing Greeks forcing the worship of gods they made up on the people of Egypt. And you have to understand, this is where the whole confusion comes into play. What we call Israel was a part of the ancient Egyptian empire. Plain and simple. So again, you go into the book of Genesis and you go into Exodus, I should say, and you have the Jews fleeing, so-called Exodus. And no matter what happened, Moses parting the sea, all that crap, whatever happened, when it was done, they were still in Egyptian territory. So they want you to believe that these hundreds, thousands of Hebrews was traveling throughout the Egyptian empire. You know, just think about it. You being on your block or where you live and you see thousands of people walking through. Like, that's something you would notice. Like, nobody wrote about this. Nobody talked about these people. They are not mentioned. But we see in the Bible them, messing with these people and eating with them and all kinds of stuff and running into these tribes that they conquer or what have you. But nobody's talking about these people. And that's one of the reasons why they have the conquest of these people, so they can say, well, they conquered the people who would have been around to talk about them. But, that's bull. So we have these people traveling throughout the Egyptian empire, interacting with the Egyptians on many occasions, and the Egyptians do not address them as Hebrews or Jews or make any reference to this huge group of people doing so many amazing things. So we take that into account. The confusion comes in here. You have the conquest of the Ptolemies. They conquer Egypt. So we have Ptolemy II Philadelphus, who basically gives us the Septuagint by commissioning 72 Hebrew elders, 6 from each of the 12 tribes of Israel. I get into all this. And they supposedly give us the Septuagint, which was translated from, the Jewish law. So we don't know if this translation was done orally or if they had a Jewish or Hebrew manuscript to do this translation. Regardless, we never had it. We have no proof that this translation was done. We don't have any manuscripts that predates the Septuagint, and we don't have any proof that this oral Torah was kept and used to give us the Septuagint. So we don't know. Just we get the Septuagint from the Greeks. That's how it goes. It's written in Greek. And then we have for hundreds of years, no Hebrew writings and the so-called Jews of this time accepting the Greek Septuagint until we get the Masoretic text in the 11th century. It's AD. So hundreds of years is Greek. Okay? Dead Sea Scrolls are completely different, especially now since we found out that in every single museum, the Dead Sea Scrolls they were proven to be forgeries, fakes. No independent researcher has had them in their hands and did an independent study on them to tell us exactly what they are. It's a big mystery. So we can't even really get into that. The Dead Sea Scrolls still doesn't predate the Septuagint Greek. So understand, don't fall for no shards. Don't fall for no little lockets, little silver lockets with supposed writing on it. Don't fall for that. We need a full manuscript, at least one full book of the Torah, anything. Pentateuch, Talmud, whatever you want to give us that predates the Septuagint. We don't have it. What we find is supposed shards and pieces that supposedly predates the Septuagint, that's supposedly written in, ancient Hebrew, Paleo-Hebrew, what have you. But no, there's no agreement on any of this stuff. So everything is just up in the air. So this is, again, where the confusion comes into play, is this transition. And this transition from this conquest of Israel, which would be the conquest of the Egyptian empire, and how the Jews actually came to be. So the story is so fitting to be what it is, to having them completely disobey, be scattered, conquered, and so on and so forth. So today they could try to make sense out of why we can't find any bodies, any real history on these people outside the book. It's fitting. So it just makes sense that it would be done this way. So we can't prove anything today. It's too much surrounding the biblical Hebrews for it to be the way that it is. But in every other civilization of people who has been studied, we can find, bodies, tombs, ruins, everything that would suggest that this was a civilization, a group of people, especially people outside of the civilization, speaking to them, interacting with them. This is what we expect to find from a people who existed. There is no proof that the biblical Jews existed. It's just after this conquest, and then you have the Romans conquering the Greek Empire, we get into this transition. So you got to look at the whole thing and say, what happened? And there's two very controversial books you got to check out: The Myth of the Jewish Race and The 13th Tribe. These are two books that hopefully won't get my video taken down. Highly controversial books, but they get into this. in some capacity. But the thing is, again, conquest. This is what we forget. It's the huge part about all this. Because conquest, you got to look at actual conquest. Because biblical conquest, we can't prove. Actual conquest, we have proof. And this is where, things gets fixed when you pay attention. So again, Greeks conquered the Egyptian Empire. Romans conquered the Greeks. So we have the continuation of Hellenization under the Romans, stuff I get into. We have the New Testament written in Greek. So we know the Romans had their own culture, their own customs. So did the Greeks. So again, as I said before, when you conquer a people, why would you take over their culture and customs? Why would you do that? Now we understand with the Greeks, what happened, because they took over. They didn't want this information getting out. It's the same with the Romans, basically. So everything was changed. Culture was changed back then. Hellenization was exactly that. Them basically getting rid of the old ways. Them getting rid of that knowledge, that information, conquering these people. This is what it's talking about in the Bible when they're going out conquering people. They're conquering Black people, African people in those territories. So this happened. And then you have the Romans, when they took over, they continued it. For what reason? So you got to look at this and say, what was it about what the Greeks was doing, giving us, Septuagint, and we have this so-called Jewish religion, right? And the Greeks have their own thing. Why would they pick up on this? They picked it up, obviously. And then, it's there today, still to this day with the Greeks. And then the Romans continue Hellenization. Not only that, we get the New Testament written in Greek in the beginning before St. Jerome took the Septuagint and changed it when he gave us the Latin Vulgate. But the whole thing is we're supposed to believe Constantine, who was supposedly pagan, who was the Roman emperor or what have you, he had a dream that Jesus gave him a symbol, told him that, hey, if you put this symbol on your shield and carry it out to Milvian Bridge, you will have success in your battle with Maxentius. And that's supposedly what he did. He had success, and converted. He goes into the church and converts or what have you. But there is no proof of that. Of course, we can't prove none of that. It's just what's said to give validity to the conversion of the Romans for hundreds of years, following their own culture and philosophy, to taking the teachings or part teachings from the Greeks, who they just so happened to conquer, which we have Judaism, and giving us the New Testament from the Old Testament, which from what we can prove comes from the Greeks. Can't say it comes from the Hebrews because we don't have no proof of this. There's no proof. We have the Greek writings and then what follows. We get the Greek New Testament, right? So again, Egyptian territories, the Confucians, clear it up real quick. Egyptian Empire, these are Black people, all Black people. The land we call Israel, Black people are there. So when you have this conversion or them trying to force Zeus Ammon, Serapis on these people, they wasn't buying it. Judaism was indoctrinated with the kids because that's how you do it. You start with the kids. Generation will bring it up, the next generations. So this is what happened. And we have this, understanding, this teaching that we call the Jewish faith or what have you, indoctrinated, forced onto the people, and they spread it. This is why, of course, when we go back, a lot of people see the Black Madonna and all these Black references to biblical figures or what have you. And all these people being Black, a lot of, because, everybody who knows anything knows Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Come on. And anybody who existed during this time, dark-skinned people, Black, period. So the confusion comes in right there to where they're looking at after this whole, these people being made Jews. There was no Judaism before this, and can't nobody on this planet prove that it was. Every piece of pottery, shard, and so-called amulet or whatever, writings is suspect. And everything is pseudo. Everything is bull. None of it is 100% proven concrete to give us any true validity. It's what these people choose to believe. So when they give you any type of information, pay attention and look at it. But just use common sense. These people, when you know the story, they didn't exist. There's no biblical Jews. There's no biblical Jews at all. It's the book and you believing that history versus actual history. It's the Romans and the Greeks forcing this doctrine on the black people who lived in that area and then forcing them to go out and teach it and spread it. Plain and simple. I mean, ask yourself, like, come on. Like, they try to give validity to what they did with the Old Testament. And I mean what that is, God gives them 10 commandments. Don't kill, don't steal. But then he commands them to do exactly that. You pay attention. God, commandments, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. But then he says, go, utterly destroy these people, namely the Hittites and the Hivites and the Perizzites and the Jebusites and what have you. Go kill them, wipe them out. Take their shit and divide it amongst yourselves. That's basically what it says. And that's what they do. But thou shalt not kill or steal. But if God says to do it, it's okay. It's fine. God said, go conquer these people. And it just so happened that these tribes that are being mentioned in the Bible, that I'm telling you to go wipe out, these are black people. Because when you follow their line, it goes back to Ham, who's supposedly the progenitor of African people. So all these people you're going to go conquer and kill is African people, which is why these black Hebrews who you following, not all of them, this is why they don't like African people. Because they say, oh, the Africans sold us into slavery. It was never no good. When that has been completely debunked. You would have to believe that every single slave that was supposedly put on ships and, brought to America, every single one of them was a Hebrew. Everyone. When we already can prove that that's not true because we have Songhai, people from the Mali Empire. Songhai Empire was enslaved. We have people who were clearly Muslim enslaved. So we already know and we can prove that that's not true, that all these people had to be, Hebrews. So then, that's out the way. When you get into the Igbo, and I know a lot of people talking about the Yoruba and Igbo and all these tribes and so-called Hebrew people in Africa. Yeah, of course, because it's been around for a long time. We're not doubting or debating that there was Hebrews in Africa. Of course, because they spread the religion. The problem is it doesn't go past the 4th century BCE. It doesn't go past when the Greeks conquered the Egyptian empire. So it doesn't go into any of that. So when you start getting into biblical history, it doesn't match up with actual history. You can have all the Igbo and all these other tribes you want to claim is Hebrew. So what? Yeah, it doesn't give validity to Judaism. It doesn't give validity to what the black Hebrews are teaching. It doesn't at all. It just says that these people are older than what you realize. They've been around for a long time, which that is true. So when you go into Ethiopia, when you're going into a lot of these ancient African civilizations and you're finding Hebrew teachings, what have you, of course. It's the same thing with the Ethiopian Bible. Yeah, of course. Ethiopian Bible is not the oldest Bible. So if you've seen those memes, what have you, floating around, it's not. It's not older than the Septuagint Greek. And it is the Abba Garima Bible that was copied from a Byzantine royal, Abba Garima. That's him that's on the cover of the book. He supposedly wrote that book for them. This is a white man and gave it to them. Their monastery is called the Abba Garima Monastery. So it's not that, they had this book before. It was given to them, plain and simple. And it doesn't predate. It was copied from a Greek manuscript, by the way. And it doesn't predate the Septuagint Greek. It's not older than that. So people who are hanging on that being somehow an African book, it's just not. We always talk about how they came into Africa with religion, gave it to us, left with our gold and resources. We understand this. So when you got to just look at the transition, these people gave you a book that's talking about don't kill, don't steal, turn the other cheek, love your enemies, love the government. It's a bad thing to be rich. If you're rich, it's going to be impossible to get into heaven. Meanwhile, the people that's pushing this and torture this is the richest people on the planet. They have all the resources. They're conquering your people. And you're following this book, waiting for this Messiah to return while they're getting richer and more powerful. Who does this benefit for you to just sit back and be like, well, everything's going to be all right. Y'all going to get yours in the end. Because that's what they're teaching you, these Hebrews. Everything's going to be okay. In the end, they're going to get theirs. Where are you going to be? How many people die waiting for that? How fitting is that for them, for you to wait while they take everything and conquer everything, and you sit back like, that's okay. Take all my stuff. You're going to get yours. You're going to be dead before anything happens because nothing is going to happen. Nobody's coming back to save anything. You want to believe it because you want to hold on to something that's feeding that hate, that pain that you have inside of you for what happened, what's been taking place. But it's not in the Black Hebrew teaching. All you got to do is do a little bit of research. Deuteronomy 28:68. Yeah, it's dope. It's talking about Black people. It's talking about Black slaves, hands down. So why can I confidently say that? Because it is. It's talking about Black people. Doesn't fit anybody else on the planet but the Black slaves. The problem is, you believe that was written 2,000 years ago, and it wasn't. It was written between 1604, 1611. It's the King James Version. The older manuscripts says nothing about, going back to Egypt on ships, Deuteronomy 28:68. It's not talking about what it's talking about in the King James Version in the older manuscripts. It's different. Prove this in my video. And so people want to believe that it's some kind of prophecy, that this stuff was written over 2,000 years ago by Moses, and it's just not true. So we know this is a King James Version written when slavery was already in full swing. So they already knew about the yoke of iron. They already knew what was happening to the slaves and what they was going to be doing to us later on. So it's not a prophecy. They just wrote down what they was going to do and what was already happening. So when you guys are watching these Hebrew videos, first thing they do, they go to the Bible. And that's their proof. And the Bible is the book that's in question, so it can't be used as proof when it's in question. We are debating the book itself, so it can be used as factual information. They talk all this stuff and get hype and pull out a book that's not proof, and y'all just accept it. There's no proof. There's no proof of any of this. So you can't use the Bible as proof to prove the point about this teaching when the book is not proven. So how are we going to this book to prove anything? It's not proven. So, when we use the book, it's to basically say, y'all believe in this. So we're going to use it to say what you believe in, to basically, debunk, what you believe in, because you believe in this stuff that's not proven. And y'all have to stick to that. We don't have to stick to it. We could just say, hey, it has been proven. That can be my answer for every single thing I got to say in the debate. Prove it. Oh yeah, prove it. He did what? Prove it. And they can't. So there is no debate. So people are going to be upset. A lot of people want to accept those teachings. Kyrie's a good ball player, but, somebody set him straight because he apologized. And the information it's just so easy to just debunk when you just read the book itself. It doesn't make sense. And if you read it, you don't why would you want to be that race? Why would you want to be these people? They the stupidest people in the Bible. There's no way in the world that just look at Black people today. Look at how we are in church. People are devoted, going to church, and just if they seen anything as far as close to a miracle, they flipping out. They're on the ground shaking, going into the Holy Ghost at any sight or sound of anything, right? So in the Bible, when you look at the story with the Hebrews, the Israelites, these people see God's power. They see what the Israelites are doing. They see Elisha, powers, Moses parting the sea, so many things they seen with their own eyes, and yet they still disobeying God. Time after time after time, to the point to where they scattered and God's killing them off. And come on, when they seen his power, it's nowhere in the world we would see God's power and what he's trying to do for us, which is basically the purpose of our life while we're here. And we're actually following this, and we have a chance to, be something great, and we just mess it up for what? It's stupid. It's stupid. They're giving you a story. It's an allegorical story. It's a parable. It's there to be, exactly what it is. Esoteric, to point to something else. And that's what you have to accept when you look at this doctrine. It's the same as being a Christian. if you believe what they're saying, a lot of these Hebrews and saying, well, oh, the Bible was tampered with. Oh, they just used the Bible to enslave us. And you got to ask yourself, well, why did God allow it? When in the Bible, he didn't allow nothing. He was killing people left and right for the stupidest shit. But he allowed these people to do what they did. I mean, look around. Look what they accomplished. And he allowed that, but, killing people for stupid shit. Let my people go. What happened to the Jews and what he did to the Pharaoh, and the plagues and everything that happened to let the people go. Then the people finally go just to go and wander and starve to death and die off and go through all the hell, eating their babies and everything like that. It don't make sense. Then supposedly we the Jews and we get re-enslaved again in America and go through hundreds of years of bullshit, all because we fucking succumb to human nature. So we are cursed because God, who is perfect, created imperfect beings. And he got mad because these imperfect beings he created, and him supposedly being perfect, failed because he created us to fail, because he knew we was going to fail, because he didn't make us perfect as he is perfect. Come on, man. So this is why we're cursed. This is why everything's happening to black people, according to the Hebrews. We're cursed because we disobeyed, because we succumbed to what he gave us to succumb to. It doesn't make sense. It don't fit. It's stupid. You got to wake up and snap out of this shit, understand exactly what the teaching is. It's not what you think it is. It's deeper shit to it. For you to be walking around grown as fuck, believing in talking fucking snakes and donkeys, people surviving 3 days in a big fish, Jesus raising the dead and walking on water, like, come on, man. And you expect people to take you seriously when you're talking to them about this shit, and you don't follow it anyway in the first place. It don't make sense. So whatever you choose to accept, you're not going to follow it. It's impossible to follow it. That's the point. They promised you a prize that's impossible for them to give you. So they made the rules impossible for you to follow. And the rules is be perfect as your heavenly Father's perfect. Which he's fucking not, obviously, when you read the book. So he's human because he's you. And that's the point of the book. Devil is you, God is you. I got into all this. But you got to understand, people who had questions, the shot with Dr. Ben, I mean, anybody who knows about Dr. Ben knows this already. Everybody know how I feel about Dr. Ben. It's who I first, researched when I got into this before YouTube and social media shit. Been doing this for over 20 years. So, yeah, he has books. And Dr. Ben gets into all of this. So don't let them Hebrews, try to mess with you on consciousness about Dr. Ben. Dr. Ben knew exactly what was going on. He knew where the shit came from. Just because he claimed Judaism, that's what he was raised on, and that Jewish family or whatnot. He told you clear as day he didn't believe in the shit. It's mythology. Told you where it came from, told you it came from Kemet. That's what he wrote about. That's what he followed. So again, this stuff is esoteric. So in teaching this, you have to still, refer to Hebrews. You got to refer to these people because they did exist at some point after they was made up. So these people still was existing, calling themselves Jews and Hebrews, but they was created. They didn't exist, before the creation, if you understand. So we can prove this. So it's just going back into Conquest and using common sense and saying, okay, before the fall of Egypt, do we see Judaism? No, we don't. Do we see the Greeks dressing as Egyptians, worshiping Zeus Ammon and Serapis Christos? No, we don't. We see this at the fall. So if this stuff was around, it would still been there. It tells you it was created for a specific reason. So, whether you want to follow Jesus or whoever you want to follow, you got to go back and look at history and see what happened. Same thing. Roman Empire, the Etruscans was the original black people who was there, was in Rome. They were conquered by who we see as the Romans today. They were conquered, and that's where the transition happened. See, they wrote it out of history. So these people who was there, they was ruling black people. And, there was no black, white back then. It was, okay, well, they married into the families and they was wiped out. Slowly but surely. It's just not in the history books, but it's what must have happened when you just pay attention. Because you have this hidden transition from the black Romans into these white people. And this is where the confusion comes into play, because nobody knows what happened. Because the people who control the history books and history is not telling you, but it's common sense. What we know was black people there first, and we have the proof of this. How they become a white civilization and a white empire. They took it the same way they took Kemet, the same way they took Europe, the same way they took everything. They took it. So we can't look at colonization of the Caribbean islands and the Taino people, South America, and Australia. They're Aborigines. Looking at this conquest all over the world. They have books on its history. We look at that, but we want to go further back and see the conquest. This is what people forget. You got to look at conquest. That will reveal everything. What took place before conquest? What was there? And that's where everything stops. The history stops. And they got to get into biblical nonsense because they can't prove themselves as existing. So as I said, you can go into every race of people on the planet. Plain and simple. Trace them back, you'll find indigenous people, especially dark. So to go to Africa, you can see us still living primitively. China, still see them living primitively. Thailand, Cambodia, I showed you guys when I was there in the village, living primitively. Show me the white people that's living like those Africans in the wild, still to this day. As I said, you're not going to find no white people that's like Ace Ventura, living like that look like that. So that tells you something happened. These people conquered. They were not indigenous to nowhere. So we get into all this, but yeah, as far as the Hebrew, the video, and a lot of people following this because, they just can't bang with Christianity because, it sounds crazy, but don't make the same mistake you made with Christianity with this. You didn't do no research with Christianity. You didn't read the book. If you did, clear as day, you'd have walked away from it and said, it's some bullshit. It's the same thing here. Don't make the same mistake. Do the research. If you do, clear as day, you'll come to the right conclusion, which is basically what I'm telling you here. So yeah, want to clear it up real quick. I got plenty of videos on my channel that gets into this information. Make sure you guys check it out. Also, make sure you guys take advantage of the sales, probably down. So just check it real quick. It might still be up, but it's going to be gone for sure by the end of tomorrow. And if not, I'll see you next video. Thanks for watching.